The NBA All Star starters were just announced for this year, and of course, like every year, there are snubs and players that we thought that should get in as starters that didn't, and players that did get in as starters that we honestly thought that shouldn't get in. This is why I don't look at All-Star game appearances and All-Star game starts when looking to determine a player's legacy or when comparing two players. And it's honestly why I think the All-Star game is kind of useless as an accolade. And of course, it's fun and it's interesting, but it's not a good way to determine a player's legacy or to determine who's a better player between two players, even throughout one season. The All-Star Game selection process is literally all about name value. When fans and media are deciding between two players, for example, Tyrese Maxey and Damian Lillard this year, they're obviously going to choose Dame because of the name value he provides. This sucks for players like Maxey and for real NBA fans who know that Maxey has been playing very well this season and deserves an All-Star starter selection more than Dame possibly. And at certain points, there are certain players that are only being selected for All-Star games because of their name value. Dame has obviously had a legendary career and has been an all-star caliber player for most of his career. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be an all-star this year, but there are maybe people who deserve to have an all-star start on their resume more than a player like Damian Lillard. And this is why I look at all NBA appearances, first teams, second teams, third teams, more than I do all-star appearances because first of all, an all-NBA appearance looks at a whole season of work rather than half a season. And also, there's not the bias of a fan and a fan's biases worked into the selection process. When a fan is looking at two players, if you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, of course you're going to take Tyrese Maxey over Damian Lillard and vice versa if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan. So, in all honesty, the process is very skewed, and that's why you can't look at it as a real accolade that determines a player's legacy or a real accolade that determines who's better between two players or even who's having a better season between two players. Because at a certain point, Zaza Pachulia almost made an All-Star game. And that goes to show how flawed this system is because as it was funny in the time and as it was kind of something to laugh at, there's no way that Zaza Pachulia should ever make an All-Star game in the NBA because he just wasn't that player. So that just goes to show how powerful a certain fan base can be in voting a player into an All-Star game because at the time the Warriors were the most dedicated fan base in the NBA because they had all the bandwagons. That was when they were at the height of their championship runs. Another flaw with the NBA All-Star Game this year is the NBA's decision to go back to a Western Conference versus Eastern Conference format because I loved the All-Star Draft so much. It felt so much more like on the playground when you're young and that All-Star Draft kind of who's going to get picked first overall, who's going to have the better team between the two captains. At this point, there's no really point in having a captain at all. Sure, LeBron James and Giannis were picked as the captains because they had the most votes in their respective conferences, but at a certain point, what's the point in even having a captain to begin with? Because if you're not going to have a fantasy draft or the starters are already decided for you and the teams are already decided for you, why have a captain at all? And it takes away some of the excitement and pressure and kind of the unknown about the All-Star game because you're looking at it like we already know what the teams are. There's no anticipation about who's going to be on what team. There's no anticipation about who's going to have the better team. We know that the Western Conference is probably the stronger conference because that's where stars tend to go. And we know that in a 7-game series, the Western Conference is probably going to win. At least in years past, it has been the dominant conference. And this year, it's become a little bit more even, but I'm still going to take the Western Conference in a 7-game series. But in an All-Star draft, there's a level of uncertainty and anticipation about who's going to go where, who's going to be on what team, what storylines going to emerge. We can have the debate about who drafted the better team between Giannis and LeBron. And there could be a rivalry that forms like LeBron versus Giannis in the All-Star game. They could have the healthy rivalry in a fun setting outside of regular season play. So that's why it kind of bothers me that they went back to the East versus West format. And I just don't really understand it from a business model and also just a fun model. The All-Star Game is supposed to be a fun weekend, and they kind of took that away by going back to the East versus West. And if they were going to go to the East versus West format, they could at least give us the sick jerseys that they used to have, or give us the team jerseys like they used to do in the early 2000s. I remember the pictures and the videos of Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter all wearing their respective home or away jerseys in the All-Star Game, and it was a sick look, and the All-Star Game used to be so much more fun and so much more competitive. Now guys just kind of treat it like a dunk contest or a three-point contest, and you have Steph Curry lying down in the middle of the court, and no one are really trying or giving effort, except for the year that Kobe died, when they actually went all out in an effort to actually win that game. That's the only game that I can remember that actually mattered to the players. And that's the only time that I actually saw players go all out to actually try and win the All-Star Game. Other than that, players are just trying not to get hurt. They'd rather have a vacation. They'd rather go on vacation during that weekend or the week-long break that they get and go to Cancun or go somewhere nice than actually play in the All-Star Game, because it just doesn't have any meaning to them. So the NBA needs to find a way to put meaning back into the All-Star Game and make it fun again, and make it fun for the players so that they actually want to participate. They actually want to play in the game. And so it's not some snooze fest that's boring to watch and boring to play in. Because right now, I guarantee you that ratings are down from what they used to be for the All-Star Game. And the NBA is all about ratings. So if they want to get the ratings up, if they want to make this a profitable weekend, they have to actually have an incentive to watch it and to play in it for the players. So they're going to have to step it up big time. And even something like the dunk contest. The dunk contest has been brutal since 2016 or 2017. That's the last time I actually watched a dunk contest, was 2016. And that says something about the quality that they've been putting out in the dunk contest. And it's not the players' fault either, because all the dunks that are cool or crazy and beyond our imagination have already been done. So what's next? A 360 half-court dunk? That's not even possible. The possible crazy dunks are becoming more and more rare because of how much stuff has already been done. If you look at the early 2000s, when you have Vince Carter putting his elbow in the rim and doing all these crazy dunks, they had never been seen before, so that's why they were so crazy. But in the past few years, when I'm watching highlights of the dunk contest, I'm like, I've seen this same dunk in a game before. I've seen this same dunk on social media. It's not special anymore. There's no crazy atmosphere around the dunk contest or the All-Star Game anymore. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking there's no point in watching the All-Star Game. The All-Star Game is kind of meaningless to me as a fan, and so is the All-Star Game festivities. The three-point contest is redundant, the All-Star Game is redundant, and the dunk contest is very redundant. So, in all honesty, I don't even know if I'm going to watch the All-Star Game unless I'm kind of having a get-together with my friends this year. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. God bless you all. I hope you have an amazing day. Make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by April. So make sure to subscribe.